Welcome to This Explainer. Listen, there is a pretty intense, honestly, kind of terrifying reality about the world we're living in right now. Forget the traditional paths. Forget climbing the slow corporate ladder. In 2026, we're talking about the ultimate form of leverage. And man, that leverage is code. While most people are sleeping or mindlessly scrolling their feeds or complaining about being stuck, someone else is sitting there, writing a few lines of text on a screen and completely changing their future. Just this morning, while you were brushing your teeth, some automated program out there bought and sold stocks, moved millions of dollars, optimized ads, and made entire companies richer. And it did all of that without a single human touching a keyboard. That is the raw, undeniable power of code. So today, we're breaking down the 2026 developer roadmap, going from basic code to real leverage. We're stripping away the fluff, cutting out the fake guru advice, and just giving it to you straight.
I really want you to let this sink in for a second. Right now, somewhere on Earth, a teenager sitting in a tiny room is quietly building something that can make more money this month than most people will earn in the next 10 years. No corner office, no angel investors, no famous college degree, and most importantly, no permission. They just have an average laptop, a decent internet connection, and code. That is exactly what you're up against. But hey, it's also the most incredible opportunity sitting right there in front of you. Look, society has fed us this massive lie about what coding actually looks like. They want you to picture this elite secret club for born geniuses, Some hacker in a dark hoodie surrounded by 5 glowing monitors, typing at the speed of light with some magical keck brain. But the reality is messy. It's really messy. Most programmers start out completely lost, desperately copy-pasting random chunks of code and Googling things like how to center a button or why is my code not working? And guess what? Even senior, hardened developers still Google basic stuff every single day. That literally never stops. The only difference is they embraced the struggle and just stayed in the game long enough to get good.
To survive this, you need a radical mindset shift. Actually, scratch that. It's a complete mental rewiring. When you first start out, you are going to feel stupid. You'll read code and it's going to look like an ancient alien language. You're going to break things every 10 minutes. But I need you to understand something absolutely crucial. That stage is mandatory. It is required. Confusion is not proof you're failing. Confusion is proof you're learning. Think about it like hitting the gym. You literally have to tear the muscle fibers to build them back stronger. Coding tears down your old way of thinking to build up your technical thinking. Your brain is going to hurt, and man, that just means it's working. But that initial confusion, it leads a lot of beginners straight into the most dangerous trap of all. We call it tutorial hell. This is a place pretty much every beginner eventually wanders into, and escaping it is brutal. Tutorial hell is when you spend months just watching endless coding videos, consuming these massive 12-hour roadmaps, and feeling incredibly productive. But secretly, you are learning absolutely nothing. You follow along, your brain whispers, yeah, I totally get this, but you're really just wearing a mask of productivity. It is procrastination perfectly disguised as work.
The huge difference here is passive versus active learning. Passive learning feels incredibly safe. The code always magically works in the video tutorial, right? But active learning, that's opening a completely blank project all by yourself and feeling your mind go completely empty. That's where the real work begins. You cannot learn to swim by reading a textbook about pool chemistry. Watching someone build a house doesn't make you an architect. At some point, you just have to jump in the mud and start hammering the nails yourself. Which naturally brings us to the question every single beginner obsesses over. Which language should you learn? If you look online, man, this is an absolute battlefield. You've got developers fighting over Python versus JavaScript, Rust versus Go, AI versus web dev. Like, it's a full-blown religion. People will literally spend 6 months completely paralyzed, just watching best programming language debates on loop.
Well, here is the hard truth. You ready? It barely matters. It really, truly doesn't. Programming is not about the syntax. It is about the logic. It's about problem solving and recognizing patterns. Once you learn one language properly, picking up the next one is just like learning a second spoken language. The first one is incredibly painful, but the next one, it goes much, much faster. The actual working developers out there aren't fighting in comment sections. They're just trying to make their stuff work. Okay, having said all that, if you absolutely need a starting point, Python is usually the smartest bet right now. It removes a lot of the unnecessary pain right out of the gate. It's got super simple syntax, a massive community to help you, and it is incredibly powerful. You can use it for AI, automation, cybersecurity, finance, building startups, whatever you want. It gives you massive leverage without being overly complicated on day one. But keep this quote locked in your head. Movement beats perfection always. The absolute best programming language is simply the one you will actually stick with. A person who sits down and grinds Python daily for 6 months will absolutely destroy someone who spends those same 6 months debating whether to learn Python or JavaScript. Just pick one. Start today. You can adjust later. You just have to get moving. So, how do you actually start moving? You build. And we are definitely not talking about building the next billion-dollar tech startup here. We are talking about simple, messy, genuinely ugly first projects. Build a calculator app, build a to-do list, a basic weather app. The goal here is not perfection. The goal is to struggle. You need to struggle because struggling is learning. A messy chunk of code you fought for teaches you way more than a perfectly copied tutorial ever will. Because the real, gritty learning process looks exactly like this. You build something small, you break it, you fix it, and then you repeat. This chaotic cycle is where the actual magic happens. You're going to stare at an error for 2 straight hours. Your posture will completely collapse. Your browser tabs are going to multiply like a virus, and you will deeply question your life choices, all to realize you forgot a single comma. You'll literally wonder if farming potatoes would have been a better career path. But that pain, that is the process. The bug that totally ruins your Friday night will teach you more than 10 tutorials combined, because pain creates memory. Now, as you wade through all of this, you are going to get overwhelmed. You'll hear experienced developers casually throwing around intense jargon. Things like APIs, Docker, CI/CD, WebSockets, cloud infrastructure. You'll sit there wondering what language they are even speaking. Let me be very clear here. The jargon will make you feel behind. But you are not behind. You are just early. Literally nobody learns this stuff overnight. Developers pick up these terms incredibly slowly, through years of painfully getting stuck and finding answers. Googling is literally part of the job. You'll get there. Which brings us to the biggest, most debated question for developers looking at 2026. Is using AI cheating? A lot of beginners definitely think it is. They think they need to do everything the hard, old-fashioned way just to be considered a real programmer. Let me be totally direct with you. Holding onto that mindset will absolutely destroy your progress. Here's the reality. AI is a bicycle for your brain. The absolute best developers today aren't hiding from AI, they are mastering it. They're using it to debug way faster, to understand insanely complex errors, and to speed up the boring stuff. But here is the massive critical warning. AI does not replace your understanding. If you just blindly copy and paste code from an AI, you're going to stay dependent forever. You just become a button-clicking robot. But if you use AI to ask, hey, why does this work? Or why did my code just fail? Your growth will be off the charts. You still have to pedal the bike, man. You still have to think. Refusing to use AI in 2026 is like refusing to use a calculator in a calculus class. It's not noble. It's just really inefficient. So with all the fancy tools, the different languages, the AI assistants, what actually separates the ones who make it from the ones who just stay stuck? What is the real ultimate secret behind becoming truly good at coding and actually gaining that massive leverage we've been talking about? The answer is time. That's it. It's not raw talent. It's not some crazy high IQ. It's not a $30,000 boot camp. The developers you look up to today simply survived longer than most beginners. Most people quit way too early. They quit when it gets confusing or right after their first really serious bug, mostly because the progress feels invisible. But coding heavily rewards delayed gratification. Your growth happens quietly in the background. The only real difference between a total beginner and a hardened expert is that the expert just kept showing up, even when it was boring and even when absolutely nobody was watching. And hey, as you put in that time, eventually you're going to want those high-paying jobs, which means facing coding interviews and the dreaded leak code. Think of leak code as a mental gym for programmers. It's painful, it's frustrating, and yeah, it feels slightly evil to have someone silently watch you panic over an algorithm puzzle. But it is useful. It builds hardcore technical confidence and interview survival skills. Look, you don't need to grind 500 problems in a month. Just do one problem a day. Consistently doing that will completely transform your thinking. Small daily progress will always beat random frantic bursts of motivation. Let's pull this whole thing together with one powerful truth. The world pays people who solve problems. Code is simply one of the fastest, most scalable ways to solve problems out there. It is literally one of the few skills left on Earth where you don't need powerful connections, you don't need rich parents, you just need the grit to build something that millions of people can use. The internet rewards builders. So I want to leave you with just a single number. 1. Stop waiting around for the perfect, flawless roadmap.
Stop doubting if you have the right brain for this. Everything you actually want starts with one decision. One frustrating late night, one small, incredibly ugly project, and one first line of code. The massive leverage of 2026 is sitting right there in front of you. So really, the only question left to ask yourself is, are you going to spend the next 10 years watching other people build the future, or are you going to write your first line of code tonight?